Inside this pack is the complete Model 2125 2-inch Gold Hand Dredge. It's a hose adapter for the Model 2125 2-inch. Or I should say this is the hose adapter for the 2-inch fittings to 2.5-inch hose. This is 4 feet, 2.5-inch diameter hose that I'll be using with the hand dredge. In here, this is another hose adapter that allow you to connect 2.5-inch hose to the 2-inch fittings. This here is a 2-inch by 12-inch length of pipe with a 2-inch steel-lined restrictor nozzle built into it. This is 2 inches in diameter here, so no rocks larger than 2 inches in diameter are going to be able to get through here, unless they're longer, like maybe 3, 3.5, 4 inches, whatever. They can get suctioned up into there. Also, if I want to go deeper, I brought along the 24-inch telescoping pipe assembly, which has a non-sand fouling gasket in here so that you can adjust it all day long without having to worry about sand getting in between the two different pipe lengths and seizing, causing it to seize. This is the adapter. This is the adapter that allows you to plug the 1.5 inch. This has got an 1.5 inch steel-lined restrictor nozzle, but this is the reducer bushing that allows you to plug this pipe length into the hand dredge. This is the elbow that fits on to the non-sand fouling 2-inch cap valve that goes on the hand dredge. And this is the non-sand fouling 2-inch cap valve. Has a flapper opens, and the 2-inch pipe adapter. This is the non-sand fouling bearing with the wiper gasket inside. It keeps sand from getting in between the two different pipe diameters, which means that you'll be able to rotate your fitting. Once you install your fitting, you'll be able to rotate that fitting all day long without sand fouling interfering with the rotation. This here is the other discharge valve for the Model 2125 2-inch Gold Hand Dredge. This one here also has a 2.5-inch hose adapter built into the end of it, and this is the combination hose adapter and pipe adapter. This here is the valve. This is a 2-inch valve. These are the two 2-inch valves that go on this one here. This is the discharge valve if you're going to be using it as a regular hand dredge, and this is a 2-inch valve if you're going to try to use it as the non-sand fouling version. This one here, the flappers are easy to replace. It has a pin in there that holds the flapper into the valve. To hold the valve together, you have to use the hose adapter, pipe to hose adapter. You can install this in there so it won't come out while you're hand pumping. Once you get that installed in there, then it plugs into the elbow. For this one here, you've got to make sure that the flapper is in the proper position. So if you have the hand dredge this way and you're pumping out that way, you've got to make sure that the flapper is in the right position. If you decide that you want to pump the other way, you'll have to pull the valve out, rotate the elbow, and then put it on this side. Same thing. Always keep the flapper in the topmost position. Okay, this clamp is on here because this helps hold the elbow to the discharge port of the Gold Hand Dredge. And this here is the 2-inch Gold Hand Dredge. Compact enough to fit inside of a sock, an old sock. There we go. This is a 2-inch Gold Hand Dredge, the model 2125. It has a convoluted cylinder bellows on it that when you pull it and stretch it and tug it, it creates suction. Okay, these are the two choices you have for discharge valves. You have the non-sand fouling, which pushes onto there, and then you have the elbow, which pushes onto that. Or you figure if back pressure is causing sand to get in here from your hand dredging operation, not really sand so much as grit. If back pressure is causing grit to get inside here, because maybe you've got too many clog-ups in the hole, and as you're trying to pump, your plug-up is keeping the water from moving the material through the hose, so the material tries to look for another way out, so it tries to get through the non-sand fouling gasket here. So if you're having issues with that, you may want to switch over to this one here, which is the standard. This one won't sand foul, no matter how much material you pump through it, and no matter how much back pressure you get. Okay, now what I'm going to do today is I'm going to assemble the non-sand fouling 2-inch cap valve to the hand dredge. If at a later time I decide I want to remove the valve, I can use the NSF 2-inch improvised wrench that I made. Once you press this cap valve onto the hand dredge, it's on there so tight that you will need some kind of a wrench like this one here to push it off. So what you do is you place it over here like this, and then you turn it around. You position it in a way where you could put your left foot and your right foot here, and you grab the pump and you'd push with your feet and pull with your hands, and you can pop this back off. Otherwise, it's going to be on there pretty much permanently once you press it on, which is what I'm going to do right now. This one here, it has a rubber grommet here. This is a friction grommet, so that when you press this on here, you can feel the resistance with it in contact with the grommet. That way, when you position your elbow, it'll pretty much stay in the position you want it in until you rotate it. Push it on. You'll want to find a flat surface. This improvised wrench will be adequate. So, here we go. There we go. That's on. That's really on. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to loosen it up a little bit. Well, let's see if I can loosen it up another way here. There we go. That's pretty tight. Yeah, that's pretty tight. Figure that's enough resistance there. And now what we want to do is we want to press on the elbow, make sure the elbow's not tight enough that it rotates. Yeah, but you don't want the elbow to spin on the plastic. You want the elbow to take advantage of the non-sand fouling bearing, turn the non-sand fouling bearing. If at a later time you need to remove the elbow and the elbow becomes stuck on, same thing goes with the NSF 2-inch wrench. Put that on there, and you'll not only be able to push off the valve, but also push off the elbow with it. Probably a better way to take the elbow off would be to put the elbow onto the side of like a bucket like this, and then hold on to here and hold on to there and push down, and you'll be able to push the elbow off. Okay, next what we want to do is take this special coupling here. Now this coupling has some rings that were inserted into here, because if you take this length of pipe and you stick it in there and start hand dredging, it's going to get stuck in there and you're probably never going to be able to get it out. So some rings have been added to the inside of this to reduce the amount of pressure that it will receive to hold it in there. Once a little bit of sand gets in there, once a little bit of silt gets in there, it'll help hold it in, so you don't have to worry about that. And then what you want to do is put this on the end. Hose adapters. Hose adapters, what you'll have to do is you'll have to use hose clamps to hold the hose adapters on there. In this particular case here, it's turnkey clamps. So, to install the hose adapters, stick the end into the hose that's for the hose and lightly tighten the hose clamp. That should be sufficient enough to hold it on. Never tighten it enough to cut into the hose. And the same with this one here. Now for the NSF version of a 2-inch Model 2125 Gold Hand Dredge, you'll need 2 hose adapters. For the other discharge valve system, this one here, this has a built-in hose adapter on this end.
What kind of setup do you have there? Oh, you got a little dredge?
Yeah.
Homemade dredge?
Yeah, it's a homemade dredge. I invented that a few years ago. It's always a good idea to carry extra flappers along. That way when they do go, and they will go, you have replacement flappers. This one here, this is real stiff. It holds up a long time. Now it's real easy to replace the flapper in the Model 2125. Say holding the G valve on, you got 3 screws. Stainless steel screws. And also, there's 3 stainless steel lock washers too, under each one of the screws. Alright. Simple. Pull out the G valve. There's the flapper. You can see it broke off right at the tab. Pull out the fastener. Should say push out the fastener. Insert it into the new one. Insert that back into the valve body. Look at it, make sure it's concentric. Should be concentric. If it's not concentric, you can adjust the timing so it is concentric. Rinse off the connector and the inside of the dredge. Make sure there's no gold inside there. And press them back together. Press it back together. Somewhat line up the rear hole with the slot. It presses right back in like that. Now you can get pretty close with the alignment just by using the match marks. About right there should do it. Look at the holes, make sure the holes are pretty close. Then you can put the screws back in. Also, make sure the lock washers are on there. You may want to take along extra lock washers. Rinse off the screw real good before you put it back in so you don't have any sand on it. And And when you're putting the screws back in, you want to make sure that the screw is going in straight. Now right there, it looks pretty good. Looks like it's going in straight. A little bit crooked. There we go. Twist the flange a little bit, and that way the hole in the flange will help to guide the screw in. Press down a little bit on the screw as you're threading it back in, and don't over tighten it. That's what the lock washers are for. Bring it down just enough so that it's on there, but don't tighten it yet. You want to wait until you have all 3 screws in before you tighten anything. Okay? The same thing goes for the other 3 holes. If the screw is not straight up and down, then you can twist the flange a little bit, or you could try to hold the screwdriver in a way that drives it in straight. Like this here. There you go. That's going in pretty straight. Okay, and then finally, the last one. There, make sure you don't lose the lock washer. Or make sure you don't lose the screw. Always work over an area where if you do drop the screw, you're going to be able to find it. Okay, I know all 3 screws are going in, so now I'm going to press in the G valve, make sure it's seated, and then lightly compress the lock washers. You don't want to pull the G valve down with the screw. You want to, if anything, you want to push on the screw a little bit to make it easier on the threads. And you don't want to tighten them. You just want to snug it up enough that the lock washer compresses. There you are. Back in business with the model 2125. Okay. Alright. This is the site where I'm going to be hand dredging. I'm going to put the experimental gravity concentrator right down in here like that. And I'm going to start hand dredging this area in here. Pretty shallow, but once I get the hand dredge primed, I should be able to move right along. Okay. Now this is the perfect place to work with the model 2125 2-inch gold hand dredge. You can sit on the bedrock, and right here, perfect. It's a good place to start. Start here where you have all these rocks and all this exposed bedrock and work your way down. Then work your way up here and see if you can find black sand and gold. Now it really helps when you're trying to hold onto the handle to grab a hold somewhere around the hose clamp that's on here. That's why the hose clamp is in that position here, because then you can get your fingers around it. Gives you a better grip. With a Model 2125 2-inch Gold Hand Dredge, you can really make some fast progress. That rod drops off pretty good right here. Oh yeah, right there at the bottom. That's a good thing about this hand dredge here. It's so powerful when you pull the handle. So you can pull all the material in between the rocks out, and all that's left to toss is a bunch of cobbles. Now when you're pulling the handle, the rocks go all the way up here, and you can feel them. They'll go all the way up to the top of the handle here, and they'll hit the handle. And when you push the handle, you push them back down, the flapper valve closes, and they get jettisoned out the side port through the discharge valve and into the hose towards the experimental gravity trap concentrator. Changing the elbow position with the Model 2125 NSF 2-inch Gold Hand Dredge is easy. Right now, I want a hand dredge right here, but it's real hard to get there because of the way the hose is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the hose and rotate the elbow. Now, since it's got the non-sand fouling bearing on it, when you rotate the elbow, you're not grinding plastic against plastic. You're actually seated on top of a bearing that has a non-sand fouling gasket inside there so that you can rotate the elbow without damaging the plastic that's plugged into it. Okay, I'm going to reprime the pump. And I'm going to position the hose the way I need to have it positioned for working on this side. Plug it back in. And we're back in business. Shallow water dredging is easy. You can see I only have about maybe 5 inches of pipe in the water. Bedrock is clean. Very good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change sides. I'm going to sit over here for a while and hand dredge. More in there. Yep, another bubble there. Oh, quite a bit more. There we go. Now it stays down. That means you got all the air out, and when you pull the handle, you shouldn't hear any sloshing. Good. That means you got all the air out, and every time you pull the handle, you're going to have all that mechanical force of the water moving anything at the nozzle up into the hand pump. Even if you're left-handed, because of the bellows being soft, it makes it easy to move back and forth between right and left hand. Now, one of the best ways to hold the handle on the pump is you have this clamp here. Grip with the small finger around the clamp. That way your hand shouldn't slip off. Never pull the pump handle toward your face. If your hand slips off, it's a possibility you might punch yourself in the face. Now, even though the M2125 NSF Gold Hand Dredge, 2-inch Gold Hand Dredge, is big, it still easily fits into an adult hand. The best place to grip the hand or the pump body with your hand is right around the discharge port. I've been hand dredging now for a couple hours with the model 2125 2-inch Gold Hand Dredge, the one with the non-sand fouling cap valve and bearing. Now you can see I'm along this bedrock right here. I made quite a bit of progress. I think if any gold and black sand's coming down here, it's coming down there, and when it gets to there, probably comes through here. So I'm trying to dredge along this bedrock here and head up that way. It's getting late, so I'm not going to finish. I'll have to come back another time. But for right now, I'm going to try to finish dredging this out. Now, what I did to speed things up a little bit is I got this pry bar here, and I dug down in there with this pry bar, and I pried up all the big rocks, and I loosened everything up, so it should move a lot quicker. Kind of hard packed at the bottom, so it was important to break it up. It takes too long to try to break it up dredging. It's easier to break it up with a pry bar and then follow it with a dredge. Yeah. Right down there on the bedrock. I don't want to leave that. Time for the clean out of the experimental gravity trap concentrator. Experimental gravity trap concentrator works real good with the M2125 HDP NSF Gold Hand Dredge. It's a real quick way to find out whether or not there's any gold. Alright, let's see what we got here.